What's rocking, everybody? I'm back. And today I'm here with my Orlando Rockins, about to take over the ITL. We're going to bring that championship back to Smogon. Going to brag about it for SPL. And yeah, it's going to be awesome, alright? Just kidding, it's your boy, Matty Brollic, aka Matty Omega. Here with you today. I have a special treat, ladies and gentlemen, for all of you worthless viewers. You have lucked out. It is your lucky day because I, Matty Brollic, am taking on the GOAT, the greatest of all time, the king himself, Akki VGC, ladies and gentlemen. For the first time ever, us two well-known or well-renowned players are clashing, and it should be a really exciting battle of just two people who've become pretty friendly and really respect each other as players that have just been dying to get the chance to play each other. So really excited that we get this opportunity. What happened was the Chicago Grambles over here. No, that's the wrong. Wait. Oh no, I can't even. I can't even show you guys. I can't even show you guys what the team. Okay, so basically, this Chicago Grambles team over here was Zamrock's team. Zamrock was interested in getting involved in the draft format, so I hooked him up, telling Akki that he was a good player. Akki was trying to get me to join his league. He needed one more player, but I was like, you know what? I got the MPL going on. I have like the Olympics for draft league, and so I have some real life stuff going on. So maybe it'd be best if I didn't join another league just yet. So I recommended Zamrock, and Zamrock ended up dropping out. So until Akki got a new coach to replace him, I was like, you know what? I'll take over his team for week 2, and I will play you so we can finally have a chance to play. So, not a team that I drafted, but nonetheless, I just wanted the chance to play Akki, and I knew it would be an enjoyable experience. So anyway, this team right here, like I said, isn't the exact team. Prior to this team had Tapu Koko was the first pick. It had Bulu. But then instead of things like Gyarados, Absol, Magnezone, Hitmontop, it had, what else? We had Pelipper, Mega Swampert, Kingdra, Nihilego, and Escavalier. I'm trying to think if there's anything I'm missing. No, I think that's it. But still, it's like 5 or 6 different Pokemon now. So this is definitely a pretty warped team from what we originally had. It was basically rain offense, and because of that, Zamrock is someone who he's more of an OU player. He's just recently getting into the draft format, so he doesn't have as much experience there. And Rain is really good in OU right now, so Zamrock, I assume that Rain is really good in draft, and Rain can be good in draft, but not necessarily the way he drafted it. He drafted like just all-out Rain sweepers with not many really powerful physical breakers behind it, like things like Mega Swampert and Kabutops both get walled by the same things. Yeah, they could potentially overwhelm their checks, but when you see my opponent's team here, Akki VGC, he's got Mega Venusaur, Tapu Fini, and Alomomola, 3 of like the best rain checks in the game. So because he's got all 3 of those, bring both Kabutops and Swampert isn't going to really be able to overwhelm him or anything like that. So because I don't have like a really bulky and powerful fighting type, or just really strong fighting type like Mega Heracross, Mega Medicham, even potentially Mega Gallade, just really powerful wall breakers, Mega Pinsir maybe, things like that could really just bust open common rain checks. It's definitely an uphill matchup for me because, like I said, he could just totally wall my rain offense, and he just walls generally a lot of my threats. For example, like I had a Tapu Koko here, and that is the biggest threat against his team because with like Brave Bird and access to Z moves, it can potentially deal with Venusaur, and then it hits everything else really hard except for like Mamoswine obviously could resist the electric attacks, but it could potentially be hit hard by Grass Knot. Rotom Heat is one of the better checks, but with rocks up, it makes pivoting it to Koko difficult because I could always go for momentum. But then he's got the Claydol, which actually is a pretty good Koko check, but just not generally one of his better Pokemon, and it's not that great against me all around, so I could definitely see him not bringing that just to be a little better against Koko. So Koko is the biggest threat against Akki's team, no doubt, But then other than that, we had things like Holucha, which can be really threatening to his team if set up correctly, but it's going to require a lot of support, which is very frustrating. Like, he's got great checks to Nihilego. He's got great checks to, obviously, Mega Swampert and all the rain offense, the Pelipper, the Kingdra. What else did we have here? Escavalier was one of the better mons against his team because with the rain up, it's hard for him to just like run HP Fire on things and really do a lot of damage. So basically, I'm going to go into a pretty in-depth team builder on how I decided to go about this game because, like I said, it was a pretty uphill battle considering that he had such good rain checks, and my only really big threat on its own that just did not require a lot of support was Coco. So he had speed tiers that could like play around Coco because he's got things like a Selgor, and he has a bunch of things that could outspeed it with a Scarf. So all in all, it was definitely not a favorable matchup for me by any stretch of the imagination, but I knew with a lot of prep and a lot of hard work, I can win this match, and I can give Akki a good game, because I know at the very least we wanted to have a good game. So with that being said, I'll go into the team builder. Alrighty, so we are back for this team building portion. Now, when I tend to get more serious in my draft league games, which is what I wanted to do against Akki, because like I said, we've never played before and we wanted to have a really good match, I will actually go through the process of building a team for my opponent that I think works well against me, because I think of myself, I regard myself very highly as a builder. So if I could build a team that I think works really well against like basically whatever I could bring, then, you know, what I could actually bring, then that is something that I will try to somewhat counter team, not fully to the extent where like I'm only prepared for this exact squad, but I want to make sure that I have ways to definitely get around this squad, because this is what I'm basically most afraid of, or what I'm expecting the most. So overall, the goal is to prepare for everything, but just make sure that I have ways to play around what I think is the most threatening team that could possibly come. So this is basically a rough draft of what I am expecting from Akki to bring. Now here first we have the Mega Venusaur. Why does this have Facade? Okay, that wasn't supposed to be there. What was the last move here? I think it was Synthesis. So basically, what I am expecting out of Akki is a fast Venusaur, one that could potentially creep Tapu Bulu. I don't know if he would creep Adamant or Jolly. I just creep Jolly to be safe, because this set could still check Mega Swampert pretty decently, and Kabutops as well, of course, as it could avoid 2-hit KOs from both of them. I'm pretty sure after Rocks, most likely, and Giga Drain just gets so much health back, so you don't even have to necessarily risk switching Venusaur in. You could always just send it in after to Revenge, because I don't really have great switch-ins to Venusaur overall. So this is definitely a threat with its dual stabs and Leech Seed. My only grass type is Bulu, which does not want to come in on Venusaur or stay in on Venusaur, so he can get up Leech Seeds. And with the rain, he may be afraid to run Synthesis, so he may want some other type of recovery. So here I have both Leech Seed and Synthesis. He could definitely run another move here, like Earthquake for Nihilego, Knockoff just for general utility, Hidden Power Fire, or even something like Leech Seed plus Protect to get some more residual recovery. Like I said, defense investment to make sure that it lives hits from things like Swampert and Kabutops, and enough speed for something like Bulu, which would definitely be this would most likely be his switch, and especially if there are rocks up. So next up we have the Mamoswine. Now here I'm debating between the Mamoswine and the Tornadus. I think that one of them could be really offensive and the other one will be Scarfed. Scarfed Mamoswine is nice for him because he could potentially pivot into Mamoswine on like an obvious electric move on Coco or Hidden Power, whatever he's expecting. As long as like the Grass Knot is really risky, then there's a good chance he can go right to Mamoswine on my Coco, and either force it out or revenge it by just being faster with the Choice Scarf. So I am expecting potentially Choice Scarf, but I think Life Orb works really well against me also, because if I don't bring an all-out rain team and I bring some other threats, which honestly my rain threats aren't very good against him, so I'm likely to kind of bring other threats, then Mamoswine does outspeed to get him out of them and hit them really hard, especially with like Life Orb, Ice Shard, to be able to pick off things like a weakened Coco or especially Holucha, as it's super effective. And he could go Jolly here for sure. I know Akki likes to run attack boosting natures, so that's why I have Adam in here, but I definitely think he may run Jolly just to make sure he creeps Bulu. But either way, it doesn't matter too much. I think Freeze Dry could also be an option on this set because it hits Pelipper really hard. But I think overall rocks are more useful against my team than having Freeze Dry. But maybe he's expecting Kabutops with the Rapid Spin, so he figures that just having another move to hit one of the only things that he can't hit too hard, being Pelipper, would be useful. So this set basically puts huge dents into my team, and that's why I'm expecting it to be Life Orb Mamoswine or something offensive Mamoswine a little more than Scarf. It could even be Focus Sash, as that leads well against basically my whole team. But regardless, I do think that he would be more inclined to run a Breaking Mamoswine set or a Scarf set. And next, like I said, Tornadus, I was thinking he could potentially run a Breaking Tornadus set or a Scarf Torn set, because Scarf Torn will outspeed all my potential Scarfers, and if he wears down my team enough, things like Scarf Hurricane in the rain could really just break down my team, as Scarf Tornadus actually outspeeds things like Kabutops. I think even outspeeds Jolly Kabutops in the rain. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it definitely outspeeds Adamant Kabutops very easily and Modest Kingdra very easily. And with Akki's team, I don't have the liberty to run Modest or Jolly Kingdra and Kabutops because he's got so many good defensive checks to the rain sweepers. So, and also Swampert he outspeeds too, of course. So the fact that he would be able to outspeed these with the Scarf could definitely come in handy if for whatever reason my rain sweepers do come out of control, or if he brings a more offensive team, which I'm not necessarily expecting, but it could happen. So Scarf Tornadus could be very nice in that regard, but also a Breaking Tornadus, Life Orb, Choice Specs, because I don't have good Hurricane switch-ins at all. Those are very possible as well, because Tornadus spamming those Hurricanes in the rain is a big problem for my team. So, like I said, I think Tornadus and Mamoswine could be kind of interchangeable in terms of which one is Scarfed and which one's a Breaker, but regardless, I want to make sure I'm prepared for them both equally well. So the next, he's got a Rotom Heat in his team, and I think that this could be a possibility just because Bulu is a big threat. So in case I could lure his Venusaur, try to overload his Venusaur with things like Bulu, Kabutops, there's a bunch of different physical threats, then I figured he may want another check to Bulu, but I'm thinking that this could also very well be Metagross in this slot, because this Rotom checks both Bulu and Koko, and Metagross with an Assault Vest could do the same thing. Essentially, has a little bit more of a tough time breaking like a really offensive Bulu because it's just so strong that even resisted hits do not take Woodhammers very well. But like I said, Rotom and Metagross both work pretty well here. This thing has nice momentum, as my Swampert is not a good switch into Rotom because, number one, it can carry the HP Grass here. I can carry Pain Split and get good HP back, but also Will-O-Wisp is very spammable against my team. I don't have a Fire type, so I don't have anything that can come in safely on a Will-O-Wisp, so that is why I think the Rotom could be a good bring here, maybe more so than the Metagross, but Metagross also, especially in Mox, has been proving to be very annoying to deal with, and they've all been Assault Vests, so I'm definitely expecting Assault Vest if he does bring the Metagross. So I think those two are pretty interchangeable, but then for the last two, I think he definitely needs these last two, as Alomomola is really nice against my team. Here I have Wish Protect, Waterfall, Toxic. With this spread, it is able to take on a Specs Kingdra pretty well. I believe after Rocks, with Protect, it could take like 2 Dracos from a modest Specs Kingdra, and it could just really wear my team down with things like Wish Protect, Waterfall, and Toxic. So this is a set that I am kind of expecting from him. I do think that he could potentially run more physically defensive to really check my physical sweepers more reliably, but I think with this spread, it could allow his Alomomola to do more and still fulfill its role as the physical check, because Swampert has no chance to 2-hit KO this Alomomola even after Rocks. And just by wishing and protecting, he's wasting rain turns and keeping his team healthy. My team is definitely relying on keeping momentum up. So if he could kind of take my momentum away and slow the pace of the game, then this Alomomola set could be a huge problem. So finally, for the last Pokemon here, I have Tapu Fini. I think that he's going to bring this because Alomomola just alone is not really a safe Kingdra check. So I think that this Fini could be a good bring for him because it just naturally checks Kingdra. There's really not much Kingdra could do. And with this spread, I can also take 2 Earthquakes from Mega Swampert because, like I said, the Venusaur has a lot of speed to creep the Bulu, and if I do decide to bring both Kingdra and not Kingdra, both Kabutops and Swampert and try to overload the Venusaur, then he's gonna want something in the back that could potentially handle the onslaught of things like Kabutops and Kingdra and Swampert. So that's why I think Finny is a good choice for the last move slot. Also because he is able to potentially defog away hazards, and it just wears down my team. That's the biggest thing I really feel like he has going for him in this matchup, is that he could just so easily wear down my team. I don't really have a lot of recovery, and I really need the momentum while not taking a lot of damage in the process. So if he could just Nature's Madness things and just get good chip damage with that and Moonblast and stuff like that, I think it'd be really good. I think in this taunt slot, he could potentially run something different, because like this spread isn't very fast. So if he does run a faster spread, I do think that taunt plus like Nature's Madness may be his play. But if not, then I do think something else could be run on this Finny, like a water move or even haze. But I'm not really expecting the haze that much. I honestly, yeah, maybe he could bring the haze because of something like Holucha. But other than that, even Bulu, if he outruns enough speed for Bulu, then that could be kind of nice for him to have the haze. So that is a possibility there also. But this is basically the team that I'm expecting from him, like something similar to this, because it makes the most sense to me. And like I said, I regard myself highly as a builder, and I also regard Akki as a good builder. So they say, great minds think alike, that type of concept. I'm expecting him to bring something good, and I think that this team is good. So I don't think it would be crazy far off from what I have here in store. But even though I have an idea of what he may bring, it is still really hard for me to build a team that could deal with this and still potentially deal with some other things he may want to bring. So without further ado, I will get into my own team, as it is right up here. And we'll start off with the Coco here. Now this Coco set has enough speed to creep a Tornadus, and a lot of attack investment, nearly max, somewhat close to max attack, with I can't remember. I think that it had to do with having enough attack to either 2-hit KO things with Brave Bird, or yeah, I think it was enough attack to 2-hit KO like a faster Venusaur after Stealth Rocks with Brave Bird from this range, because like I said, if he wants to creep Tapu Bulu, even if he puts the rest in defense, this set will 2-hit KO Venusaur with Brave Bird, even if I've used my Z move. So that is very useful. I put the rest in special attack because Thunderbolt is really good against a lot of his team, like Tapu Fini and Alamomola. And then Volt Switch is really nice because if he doesn't bring a ground, or if his ground is gone, or if it's kind of risky for him to switch in something like Mamoswine, then Volt Switch just puts it a good amount of work against his team, as it does pretty considerable damage with the electric terrain. It does a good amount of more damage than U-Turn, and I really like that chip for the rest of my team. So the Coco was like a definite bring. This thing is definitely the most threatening Pokemon to his team without, like I said, a lot of support required. So next, I'm actually going to go over here to... I need to use Dedenne, by the way. Dedenne's that little electric fairy mouse from Generation 6. So then next we have Nihila Goat, because Akki calls himself the Goat. So I got to pay some respects to my man. As here... This set, I don't think he's going to expect. I don't think he's going to expect a potential lead in Heligo with Light Screen, Reflect, Stealth Rock, and Sludge Wave. Basically, this set is designed to set up screens against his team and get up rocks too, because his Tapu Fini is not going to want to defog against the Nihilego, and Rapid Spin cannot get away the screens. So if he does have something like Claydol, I'm not too worried because I can get up my screens and he can't remove those. So this Nihilego does do a good job of preventing his hazard removers from really gaining a lot of momentum, because if he goes into Finny, I just start attacking with Sludge Wave, and if he's defensive Finny, then Sludge Wave is guaranteed to a KO like really easily, even without Stealth Rocks, even without investment, which is pretty crazy. So that's cool. And the screens here are just so useful for my team, as they allow me to set up with certain things and just kind of avoid getting 2-hit KO'd, 1 and 2-hit KO'd by a lot of his threats while firing off pretty powerful attacks. So that is Nihiligo's role here, is to definitely support the team with rocks and screens, as well as kind of stopping Finny from defogging with the Sludge Wave. So Next, we'll go into my Use Durant, my Escavalier. Now, this is a really cool Pokemon. This thing has really grown on me just by using it in this game versus Akki. Because with this spread here, I believe I can avoid a 2-hit KO from like Banded Metagross. No. I can avoid a 2-hit KO from Adamant Max Attack Metagross, Earthquake even without screens up. And with the Spadef, I believe I can avoid 2-hit KO from HP Fire from things like Mega Venusaur. And I can avoid like a KO from something like I think it also avoids a 2-hit KO from Scarf Tornadus' Heat Wave in the rain or behind Light Screen or something like that too, which is really, really nice considering I'm 4 times weak to that. So that's crazy. Escavalier is really bulky and cool in that regard. As this set is pretty interesting, I have the Swords Dance, Megahorn, Ironhead, Pursuit. Megahorn and Ironhead do a lot of damage to his team. I don't think he has a Pokemon that resists both of its stabs. And it sets up on quite a bit, especially behind screens. And the Pursuit is really nice because Metagross is the main thing I'm going to want to come in on and set up on. So if I go in on Metagross, even if he has Hidden Power Fire, it's going to do very little. And I can set up an SD, and then if I expect him to switch, I could Pursuit it. Or I could just set up and kind of break his team a little bit. But Pursuit is just really nice in general because if I get to come in on Metagross and I need to weaken it, it could put it in range for Koko, which is huge because that is basically the best thing he has to take hits from Koko. Except for Claydol, which even so gets hit really hard by pretty physically offensive U-turn. So, and also Z Brave Bird too. So that is really nice. That makes Escavalier really nice in this match. As like I said, this bulk investment is really good, and this attack investment still allows me to hit really hard against his team. So then next we have my Swanna over here, the Pelipper, as this is a modest Pelipper with a lot of speed to creep. Like a really bulky Finny, like the set that I had on my team builder for Akki, what I think he's going to bring. If he brings a Finny that's not creeping things like Bulu and stuff, then this will outspeed that, and it'll 2-hit KO defensive Finny after Stealth Rocks, guaranteed with the Skyplate Hurricane, which, actually, no, I don't know if it was guaranteed, but I think it was like a really high roll in my favor, which is awesome, as that could really prevent Finny coming in and defogging on my Pelipper and getting rid of screens and rocks and stuff. So that is cool. And then Surf and Hurricane with the Skyplate just do a lot of damage to his team, as Metagross, even with the Assault Vest, is not going to really appreciate taking stab rain boosted Surfs from a modest Pelipper. And his Alamomola, if he has the physical defense investment, and even with the Spadef investment that I have on that other team that I built, which is a lot, the Hurricane still 2-hit KOs it after Stealth Rocks. So if he runs a really physically defensive Pelipper or Alamomola, then this Pelipper actually hits it really hard with the Hurricane, probably doing like well over 60%. Which is excellent, making this thing a pretty big offensive threat to his team, but the problem is it doesn't come in on much, and it doesn't outspeed a lot, so I'm going to need screens up to potentially do anything with Pelipper. Like, it's been kind of useless in my mocks, but I just don't have anything better to bring. Like, this really was a difficult map to prepare for. So, because of that, this Pelipper I don't think is great against him, but can definitely put in work under the right circumstances. So, I just kind of have to hope that I can get it in at the right time and have it put in some work. So, then next we have Use Unknown here, which is similar to the Heligo set. Also has rocks and dual screens, because if he gets rid of rocks and screens with Finny, it'll be really important to get him up again later on with Uxie, because my biggest win con on my team, as you're going to see shortly, is Holucha. So if I can have these screens up and even a Memento potentially, then Holucha could really win this game. So I decided to go with rocks and Memento as well, because like I said, rocks are pretty important. As you're going to see shortly, they are actually pretty important for Holucha, because I was considering maybe just running U-turn to break sashes or to keep momentum up so I don't have to hard switch into things. When I know I could take a hit easily with Uxie behind screens and just get a U-turn out into whatever I choose. But I decided that I really need the Memento, because if I don't have screens up late game and I still could potentially sleep with Holucha, I'm going to need Memento for that. And also the rocks are going to be really important late game. And if he doesn't bring Defog Finny and he brings something like Rapid Spin Claydol, I could wear that thing down pretty easily and set up Stealth Rocks later, and then I could potentially Memento on Claydol before I could Rapid Spin and then send in something that could knock it out or set up on it. So finally, the last Pokemon here, and just the investment here, it's got like enough speed to creep what I think his Venusaur would creep, and what his Finny would potentially creep. So in that case, I could probably, if he does run a little less speed than those, then I could be able to Memento before something like Finny gets a defog off, which would be great. So with that being said, finally, my last Pokemon here is the Hawlucha with an offensive set with enough speed to creep. I can't remember what exactly. Let me look at Akki's team really quickly. Enough speed for the Hydreigon, that's what it was. Enough speed for the Hydreigon, which I don't think he's going to bring, but it's enough speed for that. And maintaining an adamant nature, definitely need the max attack here because these rolls are actually going to matter potentially. And I have 44 defense because the reason I just didn't put it all on HP or anything like that is because I really prefer having the defense here to potentially live a hit from a Mamoswine's Ice Shard, because that could be crucial. And behind screens, I could easily take one, but outside of screens, for example, if it's a Life Orb Mamoswine, I can guarantee it live a Life Orb Ice Shard after Rocks, I believe, with this set. And, or no, actually, no, I think I could live a guaranteed Ice Shard, Life Orb Ice Shard without Rocks up. I can't remember what it was exactly, but I had a pretty good chance to live even with Rocks up. Something along those lines, but I just wanted more defense. I wanted as much defense as possible. The reason there's 4 in special defense here is because another 4 in the EVs here for defense wouldn't change a thing, because the way level 50 works is that sometimes adding an EV doesn't necessarily change the stat. So this Pokemon here is huge, because at +2, if he runs that Alomomola set that I had, or if he runs like a more Spadef one, then after Stealth Rock, Sky Attack will knock it out, which would be crazy. If I could knock out that Alomomola after one round of Stealth Rocks with Sky Attack, then the game could be in the bag for me. So that would definitely be huge, as then I would burn my Power Herb and be able to outspeed the rest of his team with Acrobatics and High Jump Kick, which just sweep the rest of his team. Hawlucha is definitely a big threat offensively against him, but it really has trouble setting up and sweeping without the screens or the Memento, but more so the screens, because Memento would be great, but then, for example, like if he's got Mamoswine still in the back, or even something like Bullet Punch on Metagross, then he could easily revenge me later on. So that is why it's so important to have these screens up for Hawlucha, because it could definitely set up on most of his team without getting haxed and potentially have a sweep. So that would be awesome. Like I said, this match is definitely an uphill matchup for me by a pretty good amount, but I went all out to make sure that I have the best possible chance to win this match. I really don't think I could have built a much better team for this match, considering the matchup. And let's move on to the game and see what Akki was able to do against the greatest competitor to ever grace the Pokemon community in Matty, Brollic, Matty, Omega. Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, here we are. Matty versus Akki. It's finally happening. And let me, I want to switch sides. Here I am over here. And here's Aki's team. Now, this is pretty similar to what I expected. Like I said, the only thing I wasn't sure about was whether he'd have Rotom or Metagross, and he did bring Metagross instead, which in hindsight, it probably is the better bring, because like if I did bring Rain, then Rotom was a much worse bring, potentially, than Metagross. And yeah, as you're going to find out, Metagross is pretty good against my team. So definitely the best, pretty much a really good team that Akki could bring. Probably, close to the best team he could bring against me. So at team preview, I'm like, wow, Akki really definitely put in his time preparing here, because this looks like an excellent team. Definitely going to be tough to beat. So I'm going to have to put my best foot forward and really play well here. So let me just switch these sides, as he leads with his Tornadus, as I lead with Nihilego. Now, I know I can live an HP ground from any variant of Tornadus, even if he is like Specs or something like that. So here, I'm just going to go for my Rocks, because I know that if he does have HP ground, I'm in kind of a tough position. But all in all, I do have Uxie in the back for these screens, and I don't think he's going to want to risk staying in here, because if I'm Scarfing Nihilego and he's not Assault Vest, then he just gets one-hit KO'd right here. And I really don't think Assault Vest is going to be his set. So I think it is relatively safe for me to go right for the Rocks here. as I do just that as he switches out, revealing to me that he may not have U-turn, and if he does, he's not Scarfed, because he must have been fearing Scarf Nihilego, so he goes right into his Metagross, and this is actually good. I'd rather him go into Metagross than go into Mamoswine or Finny, as here, I know that he's just going to attack me, most likely going for Meteor Mash or Pursuit, thinking that I'm going to switch out, as I could just go right for the Reflect here, which he's not going to see coming, as he actually goes for Pursuit, which does 7.3 to a Nihilego. Which is crazy. So he goes no, because he's like, oh god, this isn't looking too good, because he wasn't expecting that. So I get up both screens as he goes for the Rock Tomb, as maybe he was expecting like my Pelipper to come out, as if he Rock Tombs then he can go for something like Thunder Punch and knock me out. As now I am also going to just switch right out into my Use Durant, my Escavalier. So he goes for the Rock Tomb again, and now I'm going to be able to go right for the Swords Dance right here, as he goes right into his Finny. And I am going to be able to just click Iron Head pretty safely here, because he may want to defog if he has it, and if he has Haze, he could go for that as well, but Iron Head should 3-hit KO his Finny here. Well, it depends. If he's specially defensive or fast, then Iron Head should 3-hit KO, but if he's like max physical defense, then it definitely won't 3-hit KO. So, I just go right for the Iron Head here, as he does go for Haze. So I'm hoping that means that he doesn't have Defog, as I actually get the crit here. Now, as you're going to see, that doesn't end up mattering, because he isn't a physically defensive Finny set, which means that after the rocks, Iron Head was like a guaranteed 3-hit KO on this Finny. As here he goes for the Defog. I did offer to restart, but he said no, no big deal. As here I'm just going to be able to go right for the switch out into my Nihilego, because I was thinking his best play here is either going into Alamomola or just staying in to go for something like Nature's Madness on my Escavalier to like get some damage on it before he goes down or something like that. So I was expecting that, or going into Alamomola, as I would need to set up again to do anything to Alo, and if he has Scald, then it's definitely a dangerous game to play, just staying in there trying to set up and hit Mega Horns against something that could burn me 30% of the time. So he makes a really good play here. He goes into Tornadus, and I'm like, oh wow, this worked out even better than I thought. Like, if I went for Iron Head, he would have taken a good amount of damage, but like, now I have my Nihilego in, and I could just get my rocks right back up. His Finny is almost dead, and he won't be able to remove them. And like, I look up to like calc the Hidden Power Ground, and I'm like, oh, I could live in Hidden Power Ground from a Life Orb or Expert Belt Tornadus really easily. But turns out he specs HP Ground and gets nearly a max roll there. No, I don't think he got that high of a roll. But yeah, he turns out to be specs HP Ground. The only way he's not specs right now is if he is Modest Expert Belt, but I'm really not expecting him to want to risk the Modest here. And specs is just so good against my team, as in the rain, even without the rain, if he hits his Hurricanes, I just have nothing to really switch into. So Expert Belt would hit a lot less hard than Specs. So this is almost definitely Specs Tornadus, as now I can sit in my Coco pretty safely and just go right for the U-turn here, as he does go into Metagross, and I get a decent little chunk off of this Metagross here. I want to weaken this thing as much as possible, so I go into Durant, knowing that I just straight up called it Durant, knowing that there's a good chance he's going to switch out here, knowing my set. So I'm going to go for the Pursuit, because one more Pursuit, like, you know, another decent chunk on this Metagross, and then he is not a safe check to Coco at all. So here I'm going to go for the Pursuit, as that does a good chunk, 46, leaving him in like pretty close range to Thunderbolt after another round of Stealth Rocks. As you're going to see here, he goes for Hurricane, as I stay in knowing that he's probably going to go for Hurricane. He may not even have Heat Wave, and if he does, it's just risky for him to go for, because if I go into something like Pelipper, he's locked into Specs Heat Wave, which isn't going to do much to my Pelipper, and then I have a pretty powerful Mon against his team, ready to fire off attacks. Or I can go into Uxie, which could easily take that, as opposed to a Hurricane, which could potentially 2-hit KO the spread that I have, even though I have a good amount of Spadef investment. So here I know he's just going to go for the Hurricane, so he needs to hit and try to confuse me. Well, not try to confuse me, but he needs to hit and confuse me to avoid taking a really big hit here. This Iron Head would do probably like 65%, something like that, as unfortunately he does hit and get the confusion and hit myself in confusion, as I don't get an attack off and I don't get any damage off on this Tornadus. As here, I just stay in to sack this thing, but he switches out, maybe expecting my Coco to come in. I'm not 100% sure why he switched out. Probably expecting my Coco or my Uxie to be like Spadef. but I decide to just stay in and sack this off and go for the Iron Head. But he goes into Metagross. As here, I'm not going to sack this thing off because having sacks here is pretty important. And I know the hardest thing he could hit my Uxie with right now is a Thunder Punch, basically. So, and he wouldn't go for Meteor Mash against my Escavalier there because it actually may not knock me out. So I go into my Uxie because I know I can get up screens again. And here I go right for my Reflect, as that Meteor Mesh does very little, and because he doesn't get the attack boost, I'm like, okay, my Uxie is healthy enough to take one more hit and get up the rocks. So I'm going to get up my rocks in case he attacks one more time, because if he goes straight Finny, then I'll just go into my Escavalier and click Iron Head and get decent damage off on something. But if he stays in here and tries to get a little more damage on me or try to make a prediction by like rock sliding, trying to keep things slow, then I will be able to switch out after I get these rocks up and just pressure his team a lot more. So I do get the rocks up here as he goes for the Rock Tomb, and he's like, stop it, because I brought more screens and another hazard setter. So now I'm like, okay, my best play here I think is Pelipper, because I'm creeping a defensive Finny. So if he does go Finny and I'm faster than him, then I'll be able to knock out his Finny, and even if I don't, I'll still have Pelipper in against his team, which outspeeds and hits, well, not outspeeds, but hits his team really hard. So it'll be able to knock out the Finny if he wants to get a defog off before going down, and that means that Uxie is kind of free to get up rocks and screens up later against some of his more passive Pokemon like Aloe and Venusaur, and even potentially Metagross. So here I am going to switch right out into my Pelipper, as he makes a really good prediction here, just going right for the Hard Thunder Punch. And that does a lot of damage here, but I should have enough speed for this Metagross, because if he wants to like legitimately check things with Assault Vest, he needs a lot of investment in bulk. And with the way he's been hitting me with his attacks, I know he definitely has a good amount of attack investment. So I can go into my Pelipper here, and I'm pretty confident that I outspeed here, and I kind of just have to bank on it at this point because I just don't have good switch-ins to this thing, and Pelipper is definitely my most expendable Pokemon here, except for Escavalier. But I want to save Escavalier for a sack and try to make the most out of Pelipper here, because there's more upside if Pelipper can outspeed this than downside. So here, I wanted to just go right for the Hurricane, but if he's like max HP Metagross, which I am expecting, then there is a good chance for him to live the Hurricane here, even though I am modest with Sky Plate. So here I'm kind of forced to go for Surf as he goes into the Venusaur. And here he has a little bit of a brain fart as he goes for the Protect, and I reveal the Hurricane. Now here, he switches out, and he goes into his Finny to sack his Finny. And right after that, he tells me that he's so dumb and that he wished he could like have that turn back. So what that immediately tells me, because then I asked him like what happened, he said he can't tell. What that immediately tells me is that he probably had enough speed on Venusaur to creep Pelipper, and there's no light screen up. Maybe he thought there was a screen up. Maybe that was where his brain fart was, or maybe he just forgot what his speed investment was. I'm not sure what it was, but either way, that tells me that there's a good chance he had that speed investment that I predicted him to have to creep Bulu. So with that being the case, that means that Coco could 2-hit KO Venusaur without Z Brave Bird, which is really good information for me. So now, because of that brain fart, that puts me in a pretty decent position, as now he goes into his Tornadus, as I'm going to sack my Escavalier here, because he's definitely going to go for the Hurricane. And Pelipper can potentially come in on Alomomola and Metagross and outspeed those things. Definitely Alomomola. I don't know about Metagross, but I would think so, because he did switch out earlier against my Pelipper. So Pelipper can do something here, whereas Escavalier is pretty much in range of every single Pokemon on his team and is slower than them. So that was definitely my sack there, as now I go into my Tapu Koko. And I'm going to go for the Brave Bird here, because I am not going to just let this Mamoswine come in for free, as a Brave Bird plus a Z Brave Bird will knock it out 100% of the time. As you're going to see, that Brave Bird does quite a bit, and the way he went into that Mamoswine does make me think that he's Scarfed, especially because I said I think his Torn and Mamoswine are pretty interchangeable here in terms of what his speed control or his breaker is going to be. He has such good checks to Rain, so he doesn't really need Scarf Torn to outspeed my Rain Sweeper. So I do think this is going to be Scarfed. Now, here's my thought process. I think the Reflect wears off this turn, so I can't live an Earthquake anymore. And Coco is really good against his team. And he knows that. So there's a decent chance he doesn't go for Earthquake. But even if he does go for Earthquake, then Uxie gets up screens because he's locked into Scarf Earthquake. So I get up a light screen, meaning that his Torn can't come in and knock me out with Hurricane. Then I get up a Reflect. And then I Memento on anything. Doesn't matter if it's Metagross with the clear body because I'll have the screens up. And I set up with Holucha and I have a good chance to win the game. So here, it doesn't necessarily matter what he does. If he goes for a move that isn't Earthquake, then I go for Z Brave Bird, and it puts me in an even better position, because then I knock out Mamoswine and eliminate any chance of him having Scarf Ice Shard to pick off my Holucha later. So here, I'm going to go for the Z Brave Bird, because like I said, the Venusaur is most likely going to be the fast one, which, number one, dies to Brave Bird after it comes in on rocks, most likely, and also just gets 2 KO'd by Brave Bird, so it is not a good check. It will have no chance to heal up on my team from here, because Uxie could... If Uxie, either sets up screens on it, which puts it in a bad position, Pelipper knocks it out with Hurricane, and Holucha sets up on it, and Coco knocks it out with Brave Bird from that range. So, if I get off the Z Brave Bird, and he goes for something that isn't Earthquake, then I basically am in a fantastic position to win this game. So, there's a good chance he's going to go for Earthquake, though, so I'm just going to see what happens. I stay in. He goes for the Icicle Crash. I go for the Z Brave Bird, and you know what happens, ladies and gentlemen. He gets the flinch. Now, that is completely detrimental, because now, if he makes the right series of plays, it's going to be difficult for me to make necessarily the right play with my Uxie and put myself in a position where I could set up with Holucha and win the game. So, here, I am going to just go right into my my Pelipper here and sack this, as he does hit the Icicle Crash, and now I can go into my Uxie, and it's kind of a crossroads here. I'm thinking that Reflect is my best play, because if he goes into Metagross expecting a potential Memento here, then I straight up lose. Like, there's nothing I could do. I straight up lose the match. And if I go for Reflect and he goes into Metagross, then I still have a decent chance. If he Icicle Crashes me here and I get the Reflect off, I have a chance depending on whether he has Ice Shard or not on this Mamoswine. So what my play is, I think my best play is to go for the Reflect here. Because if I go for Memento here, I could still lose if this Mamoswine does have Ice Shard. Because like say I send in Holucha, he could still go for that Icicle Crash damage and then... bring in Mamoswine later on and most likely knock me out with the Ice Shard. So Reflect, I think, is my best play for sure. So I'm going to go for that. As he does get the Icicle Crash off, thankfully I don't flinch, and he hits the other one here. Here, if I got a Memento off or a Life Screen off, that would be really nice. But here I go right into my Holucha, my Use Electric Seed, because Zamrock always drafts this core with Tapu Koko and Holucha, and he always uses Electric Seed Holucha, so it just comes in, gets the Unburden boost right away, which is a pretty good set. But I really need that Sky Attack power here, as and I also couldn't really rely on the electric terrain because I didn't have a terrain extender, and he has a Tapu Fini. So here I'm going to go for the SD, hope that he switches out and doesn't have Ice Shard. Even if he does, I should be in a decent position to win this game, as I'll get the SD up. And this thing should just be able to sweep. As here, I'm going to go right for the Sky Attack because, like I said, if he's specially defensive, it kills. But unfortunately, he is not specially defensive. He's, like, really physically defensive because he took that way better than I expected. As that Waterfall does very little to me in return. So my Holucha is still in a pretty good position because I don't know what this... Alamomola's item is. If it's anything but Rocky Helmet, then I have a really, like, almost a guaranteed shot to win this. He would need to crit Ice Shard with Mamoswine because I know he doesn't have Bullet Punch in his Metagross, so it's not like Ice Shard into Bullet Punch can win. So here, I could go for another SD, but I'm just going to see, like, what he decides to do here, as he does just decide to switch out into his Metagross and go for the... And what's it called? And sack that off. So here he goes in Alamomola, and I know that he's going to switch out here. Because if he, what's it called? His best chance, if I'm able to live an Ice Shard from Mamoswine, his best chance is getting his Alamomola back up to somewhere around full. so he has a chance to take a hit and then knock me out with Waterfall after he's hit me with Ice Shard with Mamoswine. So here, I'm going to go for the SD, predicting him to switch as he does go into Venusaur. Now, I know he's going to protect here to burn another turn of Reflect, and Akki says GG. So I'm thinking that I probably have this game in the bag. As here he goes into Alomomola, and I'm like, wait, why did he do this? Is he Rocky Helmet? As I Acrobatics, I knock him out, and he is Rocky Helmet, and that's not good because now he goes into Mamoswine, and I calc it. I'm thinking he's going to be Jolly Scarf because Adamant Scarf doesn't outspeed Max Speed Koko. It can outspeed me Creeping Torn, but it doesn't outspeed Max Speed Koko. So that's a risk. And also if I bring Jolly Scarf Bulu, then he would want like Jolly Scarf Mamo to outspeed that as well. But I know Akki loves his attack boosting natures, but I'm in a position right now that with my defense investment, he has like a 15% chance to knock me out with Ice Shard if he's Jolly. But it turns out that he's actually Adamant, and he does. It's still a roll, but it's heavily in his favor, and he does knock me out. So that's really unfortunate, as that, you know, obviously seals my chance at winning this game. As here, he could just click Ice Shard again, and that knocks out my Koko. So we lose this game in a really close 3-0. That was a really, I have to say, fun battle. Like, I really enjoyed it because, like, I wasn't part of this league, so I wasn't necessarily invested in the sense where, like, if I lose, it's going to stink because that's a loss on my record and I need to, you know, worry about making the playoffs. No, I'm not part of that league. He's got another coach to replace Zamrock. So I wasn't really invested in that sense, and I just wanted to play Akki. Like, I really wanted to play him and have a good game. And I really think that this game was a fun one, despite the hacks. Because, like I said, the Ironhead crit on his Finny really didn't matter earlier on. And, what's it called? And basically, like, what really kind of hurt me here was, yeah, the crit on, the confusion, the whole thing on Escavalier was annoying, but it wasn't that big of a deal. It just made it a situation where where his Tornadus was a lot more free to come in and spam Hurricanes after rocks and stuff like that, which was definitely annoying. But all in all, that didn't matter necessarily too much. What really mattered was the Icicle Crash flinch, because had he not gotten that flinch, then I knock out this Mamoswine with the Z Brave Bird. And then not only does Hawlucha win the game, but Koko could also win the game. Probably not, because he did have Rocky Helmet on Aloe, so if he went into Venusaur and then pivoted back into Aloe, predicting me to go for Brave Bird, then he would have knocked out my Koko, because I wouldn't have taken 20% of recoil, but I would have taken the Rocky Helmet plus the recoil, which definitely would have knocked me out. So, but still, I had a chance to clean up with Koko, because if I maybe predicted that, or just played it where I could bring in Koko and click safe moves without having to make predictions, it would outspeed and knock out the Torn. He wouldn't have the Mamo. It would outspeed and knock out the Metagross because he didn't have BP. Outspeed and knock out the Aloe really easily, and then it could knock out the Venusaur from where it's at after Stealth Rock. So the Koko itself could have won, and then Hawlucha definitely won. Like, it 100% won pretty much. So unfortunate, because, like I said, it was an uphill matchup for me. It wasn't like unwinnable, clearly, because we had a great game, a really close game, but it was definitely, I think, in his favor, because I really needed to go through like crazy prep to make sure I could get these threats to actually do what they were supposed to do. And I think I did a really good job at that. So I do not regret a single play I made this game. Like, I'm really happy with how I played, with how I prepped. And Akki too, he really prepped super well. I would say, not that he played poorly, but I know, like, he had the brain fart with the Venusaur thing. And then he made like somewhat of a hard read or an over prediction with the Mamoswine on my Koko, which could have led to him losing, or would have led to him losing had he not gotten the flinch. So other than those two plays, I am just like really happy with how this game went down. It was just two top tier players in the draft format. I would say, you know, in my opinion, we're definitely in the top 5 of the draft format players, and really going at it and playing well, building well, stuff like that. That's what I love. That's what I live for when it comes to playing Pokemon. I really like the challenge of playing the best, and Akki was definitely the person that I haven't played before this game that I wanted to play the most out of everybody else in the format, So I'm really glad that I got the chance to play him. But I do hope I get to play him again in the future, where we've drafted our own teams and stuff like that, because I definitely think I could pay him back, especially after seeing this game. I definitely think that I was the better player here. Like, not saying that he didn't do great. I think he did really well, but I just think I played so well and built so well. So, like, the fact that I came so close and it wasn't, like the fact that I was able to put it into a situation where he needed to get a roll, even though that roll was heavily in his favor, I think was really, really good on my part, like impressive on my part. So, enough tooting my own horn. I had a lot of fun this game. Hopefully whoever takes over this team isn't hurt too much by this loss, but I did the absolute best that I could and had a great game with a good buddy of mine, Akki. So definitely go check out his channel, guys. He's like one of the most underrated PokeTubers out there because, like I said, he's one of the best in the format, without a doubt. And he doesn't have like a ton of subscribers or anything like that. So I definitely think he deserves way more viewers, and he's a cool guy. Like, he always had a bad reputation for talking a lot of smack, but like once you get to know him, he's a great guy. He really just does it for the fun of it. He really likes the competition and the spirit of competition. When I suggested that I play him, he was like, do I just like take an easy win against like someone else, or do I play against someone I really wanted to play against that's really good competition? And he like immediately was like, yeah, I definitely want the chance to have that game. So those are the types of players I like to play against and befriend in the format. So glad that we got the opportunity, and sorry for making this video so long. I can't remember the last time I made a video that's over an hour, but I really wanted to give you guys a good lesson in building and playing. Like, I really think that my building process for this game worked out so well because, like, yeah, I played this game really well in my opinion, but part of that was because I was just so knowledgeable about the matchup that I knew what I had to do in certain situations, and it didn't really come down to me having to predict heavily that much. I was in spots where I knew what my play was, and I just pretty much executed that. So every now and then I had to bank on something like Pelipper being faster than Metagross, but like I said, the matchup was really tough. So in some of those positions, I didn't have a better play. So that is it. Akki moves on in the ITL, I believe, to 2-0. And yeah, we wish him the best. Both him and Gypsy King are in that league, so definitely pay some attention to that league because there are some really solid players in it. I think Sheer Force is in it as well. I think Zam Crow is in it, but I don't think he is anymore. But I think there are some other pretty solid guys in this league that I'm not too familiar with. So go check out Akki and the rest of the ITL coaches. Hope you all enjoyed this video and learned something from it because I really tried to do my best to teach in this video despite coming out with the loss because like I said, you could learn a lot from your losses, but like sometimes even in your losses you could play and build perfectly well and still end up getting the loss. So whatever it is, awesome time playing Akki. He is phenomenal and definitely worthy of calling himself the GOAT because he beat who in my opinion was the GOAT, and that is me. So with that being said, I hope you all have yourselves a fantastic day. Check out the ITL and everything, and I will see you all later. Goodbye.